got a lot to cover tonight. And we're going to start with honoring our military. May is Military Appreciation Month, and so if you'll just pay attention, we're going to do a little dedication to our brave men and women in uniform, past, present, and for future.
Anywhere but there.
Anywhere but there. That way or this way. So you can catch it. You. Anywhere but there. You go anywhere but right here.
Some people still have short memories. Those who are even blind need to be taught. Come on, I want to show you guys something. of cities and homes. Thank you for realizing ordinary optimists, top-shelf companies, and boardroom companies for freedoms, choices, thank you for your help. Thank you for 2 a.m. night watches, following the matches, for scrubbing, mopping, plunging, for papers, plans, and rabbits, for 6-hour convoys, 6-month employees. Thank you for following orders, leading your team, and carrying your brothers back home. Thank you, veterans, for sticking to your oath, so that we all can die quiet.
If you're a veteran or served in the military, please stand up, please. We have some. If y'all would come up here, we have a special gift for each and every one of you, and we say thank you. You're a veteran, stand up, please. Thank you. Thank you, every one of you. Let's say thank you to all of them. Stand up. Thanks again, y'all.
Thank you, Anna. All right, as most of you know me, I'm Kelly Cannon, and I am the president pro tem because our wonderful president cannot be here this evening, so I've been geared up all month for this. So, anyway, at the end, I want you to grade me on whether I did an A, B, or C. And if you give me a failing grade, I'll have a special remark just for you.
Kelly, do we have to sign the grade from whence it comes?
Oh, you're so good. Okay, that's Dolores being Dolores.
Yeah.
All right. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Guys, this is awesome to see this many people. And thank you again, Ann, for the wonderful military salute. We now are ready for our prayers, and they're going to be given by Matt Hayes. Right? Sorry. I didn't put those notes on here, and I'm a script person. Go ahead.
Kelly, you're dropping from an A+ to an A. You guys will join me in a prayer. Heavenly Father, we give glory and honor to your name. We thank you that you give us the very life within our bodies, the ability to think, to recognize that this world, that everything we see, everything we know, comes from you. And we ask you, Lord, to continue to watch over this nation. We praise you for the mighty military that you have blessed us with, for our young men and women that are stationed here, that are fighting wars abroad, that are sitting here at home and still fighting wars abroad. We thank you for the dedication they have to serve others far beyond themselves. And we ask you to keep them safe, to bring every one of them back home to their family. And we ask you to be with those families that are missing their loved ones right now, or that live in that worry and that fear of what may happen next. Calm them, be with them, let them know that you are Lord over all of it. Thank you again for this country, for the opportunity to meet together as people with common goals, common desires. We ask that our desires are aligned with yours and that your will prevails in the elections coming up next week in July, and then again next year, the primaries and the general elections. We ask that you just guide this country, the hearts and minds of our leaders from very local levels all the way through the White House and around the world, Lord, that you work it all together for your good. And we give glory to your name through Jesus. Amen. Amen.
God, I hate being short. Okay. And now for the prayers by pledges. All right. I'm going to go ahead and accept the default F right now. Sorry. For the pledges, we have the Stricklands, Texas and America.
May let's honor the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right. Okay, now we're going to have the Secretary's report given by Steve Ackley.
Thank you, Kelly. Hopefully I'm not making too much in this microphone without knock your ears out. Well, welcome everybody. Good evening. We've got another full house, and I think we've got standing room only back there, which is we haven't had that since Humperdinck's. We got a couple things before we get into the minutes. Our bylaws dictate or say that all the officers of the club are termed out the end of this year in their current positions. So what we're going to plan to do is have a little continuity and maintain some corporate knowledge. So we're going to keep a few of the officers, and they're going to switch positions so we are in compliance with the bylaws. We have a requirement to put together a nominations committee. We have 5 people who have agreed to be on the nominations committee. In July, that committee will be presented to you. Also, at that time, we'll have a chance to take nominations from the floor if any of the current people that agree to be on the committee decide to back out. Then in September, that committee has to present the slate of officers to be elected in October. And those officers elected in October will then take their seat as officers of the club in January of next year. So more news to follow on that. Mark Hanson wanted us to remind you about the club's co-hosting the Fort Worth Judicial Petition Signing Party on June 9th at the City Club in Fort Worth off of, I guess it's off of Sundance Square. We have a slide we're going to show you a little bit, but this is the slide that will come up. There's 32 judges. I think some of you already seen this flyer. I was told tonight these are the incumbent judges that are seeking a petition so they can get on the ballot next year and run. I was also informed there's going to be another room at the City Club with all the at-large candidates for judicial seats in Tarrant County. Okay. Our minutes from last month's meeting, which was held on April 22nd, Mark called the meeting to order at 7 p.m. at Maverick's Bar and Grill. The prayer was read by Mark Strickland. The pledges were presented by Adrian Mazier. The minutes of the previous month were read. The membership report was presented by Donna Hortel. We had 68 members and guests were present. There were now 160 members of the club total, and she introduced 13 new members at last month's meeting. The treasurer's report by Bill DeDecker reported that we had $16,885 in the bank. He had deposited $1,500 in that previous month to our account. He also reported that we had 41 new Gold Star members, and Gary Brizendine, I think he's sitting in the back over there, was our first 4-star Gold Star member. Thank you, Gary. He's a 5-star member now? Thank you, Gary. If you don't know, what that means is $500 he's given to the club for the pack. Yay! The legislative alert report was waived. We had no old business. Mark announced the membership remains at $30 for the rest of the year. We had no old business, and Coker announced that we'll meet at Simply Divine on May 27th, and Divune. Our club will be a co-sponsor for the Fort Worth Republican Women. Will host the judges petition signing in Fort Worth on June 9th. Our guest speaker of the June 24th meeting will be Victor Avella, the former ICE agent and author of What is Really Going On on the Texas Border. Mark announced that we will need volunteers. I already covered that for the nominations committee. 19 current elected officials and precinct chairs introduced themselves, and 12 candidates also introduced themselves. Mark introduced our first program guest speaker, Christine Welburn of Direct Action Texas, to give the club an election integrity update. She addressed specifics of SB 7, HB 6, and SB 1114. And Coker introduced Joe Sheehan of Texas National Movement, who spoke on asserting Texas rights to independence. He addressed HB 1359, the Biderman bill, and all the advantages of independence. The meeting adjourned at 8:50 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And by the way, the Biederman bill, it died. It died. Maybe next time. I know, a lot of them. But I gave a great, I thought, update of all of the bills, their status right now. If you'll look on your little newsletters, you can read it. I'm sorry? I made it A+. I'll stick to a legislator. All right. Next, we have the membership report with Donna Hertel.
Point of order. Do we need a motion? Have a motion for the minutes to be read and seconded?
Minutes were already read?
Okay. Do we need to approve them?
No.
Okay, good to go.
No, not
Keep going. Just checking.
Okay. Anyway, Donna Hertel, if you'll please come up. Give us just a second.
All right, Donna.
Good evening, and what a great group. This is so good. I hope you all enjoyed dinner. Good, good. Okay, yeah. Okay, I can't remember what all Steve told you, but I have a note here that's from our treasurer, Hilda Decker, and he said that as of yesterday afternoon, the bank balance was $17,995.
Let's make it 18.
Okay? And the total membership as of yesterday was 172. Now that is really good because that's about 12 more people than we had at the end of last year. So that's a really good thing. And I didn't know just how people would respond after the election and all, but I think people are saying we got to get out there and do something, and maybe the Arlington Republican Club can help me do that. So anyway, tell your friends, and thank you all for being here tonight. And we have 50 gold sponsors, and that's for some number of gold stars. And as Steve announced, that Gary Brizendine is our only 5-star member, so that's really terrific. And I think that's pretty much everything I have. Thank you all.
Thank you, Donna. As a correction, she gave not only the membership report, but the treasurer report. My apologies. All right. Next we have 3 sets of candidates in runoffs. 3. The first one is CD6 with Susan Wright and Jake Kelsey. Now, as I understand it, Jake is in Austin, but I thought his wife was here, or a spokesperson. All right, I'd like to get Susan and Jake's spokesperson up here for, was it 3 minutes? 3 minutes. You can have a little, what they call the elevator speech. And congratulations on your runoff results.
Good evening, everybody. I am Susan Wright. I am thrilled to be here. I appreciate everybody taking the time. And it is, if you could all stand right here and see how many people are here, you'd be really impressed. You should give yourselves a big pat on the back. This is me. This is a huge crowd. Thank you. So I am running. I'm thrilled to be in the runoff. Thank you all so much. It's an honor and a privilege to be able to make it this far. We've got a grassroots campaign. A great number of you have been involved in it, and I thank you all from the bottom of my heart. As you know, most of you know, I've lived, worked, and been active in this district for over 30 years. I'm very proud of what I've done here. I'm proud of the people and the relationships that we've made. I've got 35, almost 36 years in the private sector, and I'm proud of the experience that I've gotten there. I've spent 26 years of that with the FAA in contract administration oversight. Retired from that and became district director for probably my very favorite state rep in the House, Bill Zedler. And it was an honor when Bill retired to be able to continue to do that job as district director for David Cook. And so I'm thrilled to have been able to do all of that. I've also been very active in my community. You know, I didn't do all of these things in the community and the volunteer work with the different organizations for any purpose other than to improve what I could, to lend a hand when I could, and to help people when I could. So I've never done any of these things as a resume builder, but when you put it all together, it's a pretty strong case for what I'm doing right now. So during that time, I met a lot of people, and the natural progression from that was to become active in politics, which I did. So I've been active for well over 25 years in the Republican Party. I've been a precinct chair, elections judge, poll watcher, all of those things, worked on countless campaigns. And I'm thrilled to also serve as the SREC member for Senate District 10. I'm in my third term for that. So why me? Why should I do this job? Well, I'll tell you why I should do this job. Before I ever met Ron, I had a very full and active career in politics, in the private sector, and in the community, serving people, representing people, and acting on their behalf, and I did it successfully. After Ron, I had the privilege of walking with him and working with him every step of the way. So I'm ready to go on day one, and I've got nearly 300 endorsements from President Trump and a great number of you and a lot of members of Congress that validate that I am ready to go on day one. So I appreciate your support. I ask for your vote. Thank you.
All right, and the spokesperson for Jake LZ.
Yes.
Sherry.
She forgot my name. I've only been here 30 years. Okay, all right. Hey guys, hi Arlington Republican Club. I've been a member of Arlington Republican Club for a long time. We remember our 30th anniversary celebration and all the wonderful people we had out back then. I'm here for Jake Elsie. He's a good friend of mine, lives in Midlothian. He is a former U.S. Navy Academy commander, served as a fighter pilot, and completed his service as air boss on the USS Ronald Reagan. Isn't that awesome? And he actually went to, Jake actually attended the Naval Academy and was a graduate of the Naval Academy. And he was in Iraq and Afghanistan both. And one of the things that he told me, he said, Sherry, you know, I've protected the borders for the U.S. in Iraq and Afghanistan. I can promise you I will protect our borders in the U.S., especially in Texas. And I've done it before, and I've had, he said, I've had bullets flying at me, so I can promise you I can handle this. D.C. is not going to be a problem for Jake, and as you know, he's been wanting this seat for some time, and he actually supported Ron in his run when he won. He's just a gentleman and a serviceman, and he's a great asset to our District 6. And, you know, he's not going to play politics. He's not a politician. He's a person who cares about our community. He intends to have at least one office in every part of the district in every county, because constituent services is probably his #1 priority. And to me, that's what this is about. I need to be able to go to my congressman when I have an issue and be able to talk it out and figure out a plan or a purpose that can be something that can be done about my situation. We have those things here now, and we need people who can actually do that. And I would ask you to join me and many others and elect Jake Elsie in this runoff. I'm glad that Jake ran. Because of him, we don't have a Democrat and a Republican. We have 2 Republicans, and I love that choice. That is the best choice for us as Republicans in a conservative district like CD6. And I ask you to join me, and I hope y'all have a great evening tonight.
Thank you, Sherry, and thank you, Susan. All right, the next set of candidates we have that have won their runoff, or won their race to become a runoff candidate. You've got our mayoral candidates. We have Mr. Ross and Mr. Gillespie, and I believe they're both here. And if you guys would mind coming up. I figured we'd go ballot order, whichever one was on the ballot first. Does either of y'all know? Okay. So first we have Jim Ross, and then we'll have Michael Gillespie. 3 minutes apiece.
How y'all doing? All right. I feel like there isn't a person in Arlington that I haven't talked to since about October of last year. So if I say stuff that is a little bit repetitive, y'all just please forgive me. I've never done this before. And I don't know if I want to do it again, I'm joking. This has really been a lot of fun because this has enabled me to learn so much about this community that I love and I've been in for 40 years now. And to see how the community comes together and supports you when they believe in you is remarkable. If y'all didn't know, with 8 people on the ballot, we won 47.4% of that vote. We came that close. I am so incredibly proud of what our campaign was able to do. We garnered the endorsement of every single organization in Arlington and Tarrant County that endorses people, including all 4 police associations, the Fire Association, the Republican Green Card. Folks, I got the far left support too. I got the unions, I got everybody. So I know y'all might look at that and say, oh, that's scary. But let me tell you, I'm proud that we have been that inclusive to get every single organization's support in this race. I'm a jarhead. For those of y'all don't know, that's the U.S. Marine. I'm a former Arlington police officer. I have 1 minute left. I'm a businessman that employs nearly 100 people in this city, and I know how to create jobs. I've been endorsed by Mayor Williams, by Mayor Green, by Sheriff Bill Wayburn, and we are fighting really, really hard to bring this thing home. And I appreciate y'all's time tonight and your support. God bless you.
Well, that was right on the money. Exactly 3 minutes. I like that. Michael Gillespie is next.
First of all, I want to thank you for this opportunity, this privilege to be here. It's so thought-provoking when you stop to reflect on what you started off with, looking at and recognizing those who committed themselves so that we can have the freedoms that we have. And it's a great time for us to stop and reflect on those who put themselves on the front line. And by the way, I'm a Vietnam combat veteran. One of those great honors when I look back that I've had to serve our country. Just share a little bit about myself and then focus on why I'm running for mayor. I'm a native Texan. After finishing my tour of duty in Vietnam, I was at a place down south that's known for being a little weird, and that's where I got my education, and realized that I probably need to get away from there so I can get a little bit of sanity, get refocused. And we were blessed to move here to Arlington, my wife and I, and we raised our children. In fact, we looked around and Arlington was the place that we wanted to live in. And we raised our children here, and I had the privilege of being able to serve on the school board in Arlington. Then after serving on the school board, I was blessed to be able to serve on the city council. So I've had a chance to look at our government, how it operates, and understand the things that we need to be doing. In fact, I've had a broad experience base in our community. I've been involved with the hospital, so I have a sense of our health needs. In fact, that's one of the key things I think we should really be focused on as well, because there's some benefits for us, both from the standpoint of personal as well as community benefits with health. We need to assure that everyone lives comfortably and safely, so we need to make sure that we have all the resources necessary to take care of our citizens. We need to make sure that all the amenities that we want to take advantage of, our parks, our libraries, our neighborhoods, our streets, are taken care of. Have experience in helping work through those, and I want to continue to do those so that each and every person in Arlington can have the absolute best life possible and be able to take full advantage of their dreams. We label ourselves Arlington, the American Dream City. We need to live out our dreams. I want to be a part of assuring that each one of us have a chance to live out our dreams. And again, my name is Michael Glasper, and I sure would appreciate your vote.
You can have 2 sets of microphones. All right, and the third set of candidates for the runoff are our City Council District 3 for Nikki Hunter, and I'm going to hopefully pronounce this name correct, Diana Saley. And I don't know if they're both here or not. Either one? And? All right, never mind. Unless somebody wants to step up and speak for them. Okay. Hearing none. All right, so get out and vote if you haven't already. Show of hands, who's already voted for just the city stuff? Perfect. That's not enough, but that's good. Okay, get out and vote. All right, is there any old business? Hearing none. I've always wanted to say that. Okay. And just as a reminder, $30 memberships are always available. If you haven't already paid, please do. And you can go right over there to talk to Donna, and she'll take care of you. All right. Is there any new business? Don't get to see it again. Hearing none.
Okay.
And?
Just real quick, just remind
The
everybody,
Pressler?
the Scott Pressler event is
Oh.
June 13th. And
Okay, I
we
got
need
this.
sponsors, and if you become a
And
sponsor.
they can't hear you.
Oh, okay, well, that's great.
Scott Pressler will be joining us in Arlington at Mavericks on June the 13th, Sunday at 2 o'clock.
Right.
I did it. And it's a huge gathering, and we are looking for sponsors, and please contact Ann Coker if you would like to sponsor the event. Okay. Anything else, Ann? Yeah. And the summer.
Okay.
I'll do it. Dolores, you have a summer social coming up too, which is called Life is the Beach. And it's going to be June the 27th. 6. I was so on a roll. Okay.
The speaker.
And then Bill Daly's about to have a conniption back there. He's trying to get my attention.
Bill, don't have a conniption. We're going to have the George Rodriguez coming up from San Antonio.
There you go.
We're going to have George Rodriguez coming up from San Antonio, and George has a radio show and a blog, and he is going to talk about what a decided mess the border is. And we'll have enchilada ole will be the buffet. And of course, every year I have the best prize for the most creative beach attire, which has been won by people like John. Anyway, June 26th at my house, Saturday, June 26th.
What time, Dolores?
6:30.
6:30.
Until they go home.
6:30.
Until you drop.
Until they go home.
All right, Bill Daly, what do you have for us?
Hey, everybody. I'm back in the corner.
Howdy.
Howdy. That's where they always put me. So we have coming to Arlington next Thursday night, Don Huffines, who has declared he's running for governor, is going to be coming for a meet and greet. It's not a fundraiser, it's a meet and greet. I've never met him. It's going to be up in Meridian. If you're interested, please send a message to Carol Daly or come by and see us before we leave and let us know so we can try to make sure we know what the food count is. But Don Huffines will be, it's from 5:30 to 7 next Thursday, June the 3rd. Sorry, 8. I'm sorry, I was just told by my wife it's 5:30 to 8 next Thursday night in Meridian, across from the club area. So if anybody's interested, please let us know.
Okay, so that's the 4th? June 4th? Okay. All right, now?
I have one more.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, Raul
Hi, I'm Raul.
Gonzalez. I'm on the city council. Just a big, important news. We've got an election in Mansfield ISD. It's in the city of Arlington. We've got 2 conservatives and 2 liberals. It is important that people vote. If you're familiar with MISD, we had a big issue with LGBT. It is continuing, and they have put people in there. So if you know anybody that lives in Mansfield ISD, you've got Des Thomas, who's been there for a long time, and Kezia Ferrer. Sorry. But it's important that you get those people out because I know it's supposed to be nonpartisan, but they have put people up there to get things done in Mansfield. So just get the word out. Thank you.
All right, are there any other new announcements? I have one more unless I hear something.
Kelly.
Yes, ma'am.
Shanda wanted to say, you want to tell everybody?
Shanda.
Thank you for the event. Oh, well, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. It's good to see all of you. Bill Sadler tried to be here tonight. Hi, Carol. And so he told me that he wasn't going to be able to go. So he wanted me to tell everyone how much he appreciates y'all. And all of you who attended his event on Tuesday night, his honoring, he said to tell you when he awoke on Wednesday morning, he said to Ellen, pinch me and make sure I didn't just have a wonderful dream last night. He is so grateful for every one of you, and he sends his love to all of you. Thank you, Shelly. We do love Bill.
All right, so we also need, one last thing, we also need some volunteers for next term. As Steve mentioned in his secretary report, we are looking at, slates of candidates for our next set of officers. And if anybody's thinking about being president or maybe my spot, I'll fight you for it, or anything else, get with either Steve or myself or Mark Hansen and, step up. Do more than just sit there. All right? Anyway, I know y'all do more than just sit there.
Kelly,
Yes, ma'am?
just one quick thing.
Yes, Donna?
One quick thing I keep forgetting when I'm up there. Before y'all leave, will you turn in your badges?
Yes, please return those lovely badges.
Husband usually goes around the basket.
Because you don't want to make that woman mad. Oh.
Thank you.
All right. Now we get to go through our elected officials and then our current candidates on the introductions. And let's keep it real brief because we do have still a lot.
Name and office.
Name and office. Okay. Are you going to pass around the mic?
Thank you. Oh, I'm not running. Just like you.
Let's start here. Who wants to go? Don't be shy.
Current elected officials and precinct chairs first.
James Askew, 3335 in Euless. Area Leader, House District 92.
Keep going.
Good evening, fellow club members. Tom Wilder, your incumbent district clerk. I've been a member of this club since 1982. I was on Governor Bill Clement's field staff, working in the vineyards. I do want to thank all of you for your support so far for my re-election. Sheriff Wayburn, Tony Tenderhold, so many I can't even mention them all. David Cook. I've got some literature for you tonight. I'll say one quick word that Peggy Borchard asked me to say. If you know anybody in Fort Worth, get them out to vote. We have a lady over there that I have had run-ins myself with, who's Maddie Parker's opponent. It will be disastrous for Tarrant County and the conservative cause if she is mayor of Fort Worth. Vote Maddie Parker.
All right, thank you.
I'm Mary Tom Kernett. I'm your JP right here in Arlington. Appreciate your support here coming up in the next election.
Bill Daly, Viridian Precinct 2442, also the chair of the TCG Open Finance Committee.
Raul Gonzalez, City Council District 2.
Any more precinct chairs or elected officials?
Donna Hertel, Precinct Chair 2401, here in Arlington.
Bill Jane, Precinct Chair 2281 in North Arlington.
Marcella Jones, Precinct Chair 2226 in Arlington.
David Acharya, South Asian Republican Club.
He just blew the room out. Yeah, they're good stuff.
Susan Wright, Precinct 2306, Senate District 10, SRAC.
Hector Casanova, 2173, Lake Arlington.
Lorraine Bethke, Precinct Chair 2358.
Craig Omby, Precinct Chair 2613.
Don Corman, Precinct Chair 2314.
Deborah Deacon, Judge, County Criminal Court 4.
Kelly Hughes, Precinct Chair 2307, which is South Arlington, where all the peacocks live.
I'm going to go up there.
Steve Eklund, Precinct Chairman 2007, and Area Leader for HD 94.
Yeah.
I'm Kerry Walker, Judge of County Criminal Court number 2.
Well,
I'm David Lambertson, enemy of the nanny state, and Precinct 1227.
Joseph Oath, Precinct Chair 2266.
Is that it? Okay, now for current candidates, excluding, no, never mind. Current candidates.
All right, start over here again.
What? Somebody call my name?
Good evening. Ooh, I'm loud too, always. Good evening, everyone. I am Mamie Johnson, and I'm running for County Criminal Court number 5. The judge is retiring. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everybody. Brian Bolton. I live right here in Arlington. I'm running for the empty position that's going to be available when Judge Carr retires. That's County Criminal Court number 9. I want to thank everybody in this room. I've got a lot of support here, a lot of endorsements. Send one of your own Arlington residents to downtown Tarrant County so we can live in a just and safe community. Thank you.
I'm just a lowly old volunteer. I'm Sherry Heinzman, Precinct Chair 2360 and Area Leader for District 96. State Representative David Cook. Hey, come on.
Hey, good evening. I'm Matt Hayes, and I am running. I am fighting to take back JP 7.
Yeah!
Hi, y'all. My name is Lori DeAngelis. I'm currently the Associate Judge of the 325th District Court. Judith Wells is retiring. I've been working for her for the last 4 years, and I'm running to take that spot. Thank y'all.
Hey guys, Elizabeth Rivera. I'm a family law attorney of 15 years. We have a judge retiring in the 324th, which is directly below the 325th. And I'm looking to serve in that court. I appreciate your support. I appreciate your vote. Thank you very much. Liz Rivera, 324th.
I'm Eric Starnes. I'm running for Tarrant County Criminal Court number 7. I'm an assistant criminal district attorney for Sharon Wilson. I'm a retired Euless police officer. Cheryl Hardy, the current judge, will be retiring. Again, that's Eric Starnes for County Criminal Court 7.
Good evening. I'm Andy Porter, running for Criminal District Court number 4. It's felony court here in Tarrant County. Judge Thomas is retiring. I'm board certified in criminal appellate law. More importantly for y'all, longtime member of this club, at least a decade that I remember. I'd appreciate your vote. My petition is circulating, so if you can sign that as well. Thanks, everybody.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Cynthia Terry. I'm running for the 325th Family District Court. Judge Wells is retiring. I've had the privilege the last couple of years of serving you all as an associate judge in our juvenile court. I run my courtroom with transparency, efficiency, and compassion for families while following the law. And I'm asking you to make me your next district judge in the 325th. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hello again, Patriots. My name is Kelly Hughes. I'm an attorney. I've been practicing for 26 years and working almost daily at the district clerk's office, which is the reason why I'm wanting your vote to be your next district clerk.
Good evening. My name is Deborah or Debbie Adami. I have been a resident here in Arlington for about 30 years. I've been practicing for 27 years. I began my career as a paralegal for Shannon, Gracie, Ratliff, and Miller, and then I became an attorney, and now I am running for judge for the County Criminal Court number 9. Thank you.
Anybody else we missed? That's it?
All right, thank you guys, and remember, these guys stood up and took the extra step forward to be elected officials. And even the ones who aren't and used to be and possibly still could be, yeah, I'm looking at you. We support you wholeheartedly no matter what, all of y'all. Okay.
Andy, you're getting that look.
Yes, he's getting that look.
Yes,
He
I saw
is.
that, I saw that.
Anyway, without further ado, and in an attempt to keep a solid B+ grade right now, I'm going to let Ann Coker do the introduction of our keynote speaker.
Before I introduce our speaker, I'd like for David Lamberster to stand up, please.
Ah, dang.
I want everybody to give David a hand because he is officially on death row with Facebook. He's been banned for life. That is a real distinction. Most of us get put away for 30 days or 60. David's banned for life. Okay. Life sentence. Yeah, he is a permanent jailbait. That's what you call jailbait, buddy. Okay. We are very pleased to have a hero in our midst. Tim O'Hare fought the law and the law didn't win. He started the Southlake Family Pack to take on some propaganda that were being fed to the children of Southlake. And Southlake Carroll Independent School District is the #1 school district in the state of Texas. But they can't leave well enough alone. The liberals had to start meddling and start trying to teach our children critical race theory. And if you don't recognize this young man, he was the former Tarrant County chair of the Republican Party. And he's a well-known attorney for now, but he has other plans, I hear. But anyway, I am pleased to introduce to you a one-man army, Tim O'Hare.
Hi, everyone. Ann asked
If you didn't recognize that young man, if you take a look at that picture of me now, I don't recognize that young man. Those were the good old days. Thank you for the invite to come here. This group is really special in my heart because when I first ran for county chair, lots of people in this room were incredibly supportive and took me in, the guy from the other place, the Pells, the Cokers, Mr. Omby, many of you. So it's great to be back here in front of all of you. And how many of you heard in the news, on Fox News, whatever, about Southlake? Raise your hand. Okay. Everybody's here. I knew that would be the case with this group. So what happened in Southlake was unbelievable when you get right down to it. So people around here know Southlake from sports and from the good education you get, and especially from football. And what they tried to do in Southlake, especially with the makeup of the community, was unbelievable. And we'll show you some things here in a minute. But they attempted to put in some of the most radical left-wing policies that you have ever seen in public education. And people all over the state of Texas were watching this. Because if it can get passed in Southlake, Texas, it can be anywhere. And I will tell you, I believe this with all my heart. If it had passed in Southlake, it would have gone all over this state like a disease. And in 10 years, there's no way on earth Texas could be red. Not with what they would be churning out of the public schools. And you know what happens when Texas isn't red? America is lost forever. So, go to this next slide here. Oh, yeah, I'm doing it. Yeah, okay. Tim, go to this next slide here. Which one? Okay, right there. So, my wife and I like to refer to this as the biggest mistake in the history of Southlake Carroll ISD. If you take a look at anything that Southlake Carroll ISD does, you will see that they have scrubbed, and I mean on purpose, scrubbed any mention of the word Christmas, Easter, Good Friday. I mean, if you even dreamed of putting the word Jesus anywhere, people over there would have a conniption fit. And it is scrubbed everywhere. No Christmas trees. They won't mention the word Christmas. You know how it is, winter parties that you have, all that kind of stuff. And especially in a town like Southlake, which is like 90% Christian, they have scrubbed it, I mean, from everything. So if you don't know what Diwali is, I'll tell you. Diwali is a Hindu holiday celebrating the goddess of fire, or goddess of light, or goddess of something or other they have. And what we found out was that even though they won't talk about Jesus, they won't talk about Christmas, they won't talk about Easter, they brought people in from all over to every school in the district and started talking about Diwali Day. And they were tweeting it out, making posters, and they had people come in and sing some of their worship songs. Well, they tweeted out that picture, and that picture happens to be my daughter right in the middle. And so at that point, I picked up the phone and called the superintendent's office, and I asked to have an appointment to see him. And of course, I got the runaround, and I told them, I just said, hey, you can either make an appointment for me or I'll have 200 people at the school board meeting on Monday. They put me on hold, and about 2 minutes later, we had a meeting the next day. So this was just a precursor of things to come. And at this point, we were, and we still are in many ways, we were very supportive of the schools, very pro Southlake Carroll. Everybody loves being a dragon, but it started to open our eyes and the eyes of many others to see what was going on inside our school district. And I'll be honest with you, people fell asleep. We had multiple school board members sitting on the school board where they got appointed, they never ran for office. The president of the school board at the time this was going on was a Democrat in a town that is hugely Republican. The person that became the president after that one, as liberal as they come, claims to be a Republican. But what they were about to do woke people up. So let's go here. You've heard about how racist Southlake is. And you've heard about how horrible they are and how they mistreat people. So this right here was the state semifinal game. These are just two pictures of dozens, if not hundreds, that you can find around. But in the state semifinal championship game right here at the old Rangers ballpark, Southlake beat Duncanville. And Duncanville, if you don't know, had gone to 2 straight state championship games. One of them they lost on a last-second Hail Mary. It was awful if anybody remembers what happened. It was terrible. They had it won. And so this was they thought they were going to win state. And this was 3rd year in a row of disappointment. And some of those kids from Duncanville, after the final whistle blew, I mean, they were on the ground sobbing. And all over that field, people with our high school kids were going up and hugging them, praying with them, consoling them, and they all got together at the end. I mean, it was a giant embrace of 80 young men, and this is what Southlake is about. But if you see the news and read the newspapers, you would think that we're some kind of horrible community that mistreats people. And I'll be the first to tell you, if kids are being mistreated, whatever color, creed, religion they are, then they should be disciplined, the ones that are doing it, and they should be dealt with. So, this is what Southlake really is. This is what we're like. It's the most caring, giving place. The number of charitable organizations that are supported in Southlake, Texas, and the money that flows from Southlake, Texas into different charities, and I could give you a laundry list, is stunning. And it is a well-off community, a very blessed community, but people are very giving. So, we started looking into things that were happening in the school district, and take a look at this right here. This is an assistant principal at the high school, and this is what she was tweeting. What we also found... Honey. Yes? Want me to read it? Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Be careful. I will decenter whiteness and abolish hatred in my space. My culture matters. I am willing to educate. And then another one. Teaching is political. You can't be partisan. So this is just one of a host of things. So now let me go back. So in July of 2020, with no public rollout, no information to the public, something called the District Diversity Council, made up of 63 people, released something they called the Cultural Competence Action Plan. Now, you can guess when you form something called the District Diversity Council, you're probably not going to get a lot of conservatives to apply. So out of the 63-member board, and think about that for a minute, 63 people on a board, who could get anything done with 63 people on a board? But 63 people on a board, about 57 of them who are liberal, came up with something called the Cultural Competence Action Plan. It was unveiled when they had to post the meeting on the agenda the Friday before, I guess, August 2nd or 3rd. And it started getting around the community. Nobody knew it was coming, but people saw it, and it started spreading, and people started talking about it and looking at it. And it's a 154-page action plan. And what you can probably imagine would come out of a group like that is some of the most, I mean, it literally would make Karl Marx blush. It was unbelievable, some of the stuff that they were proposing and wanting to do. And the cost of it, I think, over a 3-4 year period was going to be $3 million with costs no end in sight and all sorts of things. So let me go to the next slide here. So here is the Cultural Competence Action Plan that was set for adoption on August 3rd. Okay. I'll read you some of these here. So, goal number 1, promote cultural competence within Carroll ISD. Now, some of you may be asking, what is cultural competence? And that's what everyone in Southlake was asking, and nowhere in their document was it defined. Nowhere. Nobody knows what it means. So, objective 1, define and understand culture, be able to assess one's own biases, stereotypes, and level of cultural competence. So here's some of the things they wanted to do. Develop students' cultural competence to embrace diversity at all CISD campuses and enable a culturally safe and respectful environment for students to value and practice inclusion. Sounds kind of innocuous. Action step 1, hire a director of equity inclusion to oversee implementation of the Cultural Competence Action Plan. Embed diversity and inclusion training for students as an enrollment to graduation. implement a diversity and inclusion curriculum initiatives for each grade with different levels of age-appropriate proficiency. Establish diversity and inclusion and metrics-driven student education policy. Reward and recognize students who demonstrate diversity and inclusion excellence. What does that mean? I have the most black friends. I have the most Asian friends. This causes people to look at race. So, honey, what did our 4-year-old today we have a thing for 4th graders. They're leaving elementary school. Have a thing for 4th graders where they call it clap out. So they leave their class and all the kids clap for them and the parents clap for them in the street. And we were looking for one of our church friends, and our 4-year-old daughter said, I can't tell which one is one of our friends. They all seem to have dark hair. You know, my 4-year-old doesn't know she's supposed to see differences between this race and this culture, and this seeks to introduce it. And I will tell you what I believe, and I know many of you do as well. It teaches people to start looking at race and factoring in race for things instead of treating them equally and seeing everybody as equal. Something interesting that we learned during all of our reviews and open records requests and things, which I'll get to in a minute, we learned that there is zero disparity among any races when it comes to grades. So when they measure it by races, everybody has the same grade average. There's no discrepancy of any kind. So here's one. Establish an LGBTQ+ student focus group to provide dialogue and discussion on topics important to their group. They were even talking about introducing LGBTQ+ curriculum to, I kid you not, pre-K.
Oh my God.
These are 4 and 5-year-olds. So, coordinate a diversity and inclusion week at each campus during the academic year and a district-wide Diversity and Inclusion Matters Day. Do you know what group is promoting this all over the country? Right there. That's what they are trying to get in every single public school. That's right. That's all right. Here's a few more of these. Now, the good news is, since you know the end of the story, there's some good news coming, but I'm going to tell you how we get there. So, finalize and introduce structured diversity and inclusion training and initiatives for students during the academic year to include mandatory online self-guided training and focus group trainings. Parents are not going to teach about this anymore. It's the school district. Conduct an equity audit of curriculum, programs, and policies at Carroll ISD. Now, I'll tell you what that is. They tried it up in Michigan. It's already been ruled unconstitutional at the U.S. Supreme Court. That is, they go into religious groups, Young Life, FCA, and say, if you don't allow this or that or this or that, you can't meet on our campus. You know how that goes. So that's what they wanted to do. Launch a multifaceted marketing and communications campaign that celebrates the uniqueness and diversity within Carroll ISD. Create a systemic process for consistently tracking and reporting microaggressions and incidents of discrimination. Now, let me tell you what microaggressions are. Can everybody still hear me okay? Okay. Microaggressions are intentional or unintentional snubs or insults. And we'll have a slide up here. Is it next, honey? Is it the next one? Okay, let me just pop over to it. I'll get there. There we go. There you go. Take a look at that. Microaggressions are described as everyday verbal or nonverbal snubs or insults, whether intentional or unintentional, which communicate hostile, derogatory, or negative messages to target persons based solely upon their marginalized or minority group.
Oh my God.
So what that tells you, if you read between the lines on that, white people cannot be microaggressed, okay, but everybody else can. And they literally wanted to have a tracking system of microaggressions. So the question was asked in a board meeting, well, could this be a microaggression? Could this be a microaggression? And the person that was going to be in charge of the program, yes, it could be. Yes, it could be. One of the questions was, what if somebody smells food that's opened up at lunch and says, what's that smell? Could that be a microaggression if it's an ethnic food? Oh, yes, that could be a microaggression. So they want to control literally their thoughts. Okay. So you get what they're trying to do, and as I said, it's 134 points or so, and I've gone over 7 or 8, 10 of them. It's just a laundry list. I mean, it is a far left woke person's dream curriculum for a school district. So it comes out the last day or so of July. Many people on vacation in Southlake during this time period. School hadn't started yet. They're voting on it the next Monday. And so a lot of us saw it, got together and said, all right, what do we do? Well, we started sending out Facebook messages and emails and text messages. Call the board members. Here are their numbers. Here are their email addresses. Email them. You got to go speak at the board meeting. And so there started to be an uprising. But I mean, this is literally over a weekend. Okay, that people are starting to come together. Ma'am?
Yeah, real quick, how did you get a hold of this information when I'm sure they were keeping it close to the vest?
They have to post it online before a public meeting,
Okay,
72 hours in advance. Okay. So fortunately, some people were actually checking it, and most of the time people didn't, but they did this time. And we were reaching out, doing the things you do in 3 days' notice to try to stop it. So they have a board meeting, and to say that it was a boondoggle would be the understatement of the year. They didn't know what to make on a motion. They didn't know what to do about it. They were sitting there afraid of the woke mob who had shown up with signs, and they were out burning flags and dancing on flags and doing all kinds of stuff. And of course, this was in the middle of the presidential election, so there were people out there screaming how Trump is a this and a that. You know how they do. So a good thing happened. They did not vote to actually pass it. They voted to receive it, which wasn't on their agenda, which is a key thing. So they voted to receive it. And then the people that wanted it real bad on the board, as soon as that happened, started telling everybody after the meeting, oh yeah, we're enacting it, we're going forward. So that's when we stepped up and took action. So here's where we get to that. What did we do? Well, a couple of things. And I want to be the first to say this. Although I founded and started the PAC, what happened at Southlake could not have happened from one guy or two people. This was a team effort from top to bottom, and we saw some real heroes emerge in this and some real stars and one rock star that I'll tell you about here in a minute. So I formed Southlake Families PAC. So this is something you can do right now on your own. Go to the TEC, read what it takes to form a general PAC or a specific PAC. We formed a general PAC. If you list a treasurer and either a committee of 2 to be an expense approval committee or a donation approval committee, you now have a PAC when you file that paperwork. And then you are free to go raise money for whatever cause you say the PAC is for. So we did that. I did that immediately. How many of you ever heard the name Lee Wamsgans? Okay. So Lee Wamsgans, we would say she is the queen bee of conservative activists in Southlake. And she is a bulldog extraordinaire. Her husband Andy used to be the mayor, but she's very good friends with Kristen and I. She, with her own money, now we're good friends, us and the Wamsgans, but she, with her own money, went and hired someone to build a landing page and to put ads on Facebook and Instagram without using any PAC money, just out of her pocket, to say, you won't believe what's happening here, please sign up, give us your email, and we will keep you informed. So she and I joined forces almost immediately. The reason it wasn't immediately is because we happened to be in Montana when all this was going down. So try to get a signal to deal with all this stuff in the middle of Montana is not the easiest thing in the world. So we were driving and stopping. Sorry, we can't go look at this national park thing. We gotta get on the phone. So the kids are watching their iPads in the back while I'm talking to this reporter and this person who's actually quite adventurous. So we got together, and the other thing that happened was several concerned parents got together and said, we've got to have a meeting. And in like a day's notice, 120 parents came to somebody's house in the backyard in the middle of COVID, and we started formulating a plan. So we also hired a consultant, like you can see, to build a website and to do digital ads. We had literally a couple of thousand emails overnight, and the PAC allowed us to start raising money. So we got my church, First Baptist Grapevine, to allow us to do an event. We kept running the ads, kept gathering emails. In a very short time frame, we had 2,600 emails. And we had the event at our church, First Baptist Grapevine, and we invited Alan West to come speak. And so we had to cut it off at 400, and we still had people saying, can I come, can I come? We actually had people come to the door, we had to turn them away. So we had 400 people in that room. And every one of them was fired up and ready to go. So I led the meeting. I explained what we were going to do, how we were going to do things, and that we needed money. And I said, it's a wealthy community. $300 from each of you in this room, and we have enough money to sweep the next election and to file a lawsuit to stop this nonsense.
Yeah.
And I mean within 45 minutes. Within 45 minutes after that meeting was over, I think we had raised about $75,000. Now, not everybody can do that. Southlake is unique in that. But in the cities that have bigger populations, there's more you can get to. At this point, and I didn't look today at the exact number, but to fight this effort, we raised in total, we're up to about $250,000. And so a key component to what we were able to do and how we were able to expose all the things going on was open records requests. Now, many of you know a lot about the Open Meetings Act and open records requests, but let me tell you what the Open Meetings Act says and why it matters. So for those of you that are trying to run for school board or city council or mayor, take this warning right now. City council members, mayors, school board members regularly violate this thing all the time. And they are not allowed to communicate about agenda items in a quorum. A quorum is a majority of the board. There's 7 members of the Carroll ISD School Board. They cannot communicate in a group of 4 about an agenda item. And so someone who knew something about the Open Meetings Act directed a number of people to do open records requests to go find that very thing about this meeting. I had no doubt we would find it. And sure enough, within the 14 days or 10 days, whatever it is, they had turned over emails and text messages. And when I got it, I looked at it and immediately I said, we got them. And the school board president had coordinated how they were going to say things, what they were going to say, how to pass this, what to make on the motion, with 4 other board members, all involved. And you may or may not be familiar with the term walking quorum, but the way sometimes people think they can get around it is if I go talk to you, and then I go talk to you, and then you go talk to you, it's not really a quorum. Well, for purposes of the Open Meetings Act, it is. So someone took those text messages and turned those into our DA's office. And I can tell you, I believe it was in March of this year, the school board president and vice president were indicted for violating the Open Meetings Act. So from Glacier National Park in Montana, I had 3 or 4 ladies on the phone, and I explained to them how to do an open records request. Open records request is different than the Open Meetings Act. Open records request, I just started drafting it literally on my phone and emailing it to them. And what was cool about it was once people learned how to do it, you didn't have to tell them about it anymore. So, you had some people that just, it was the time of their life to get up every morning and write an open records request to find something.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't believe all the stuff we found. So, let's see, do we have it over here? Okay, this is a great one. So, one of the things we found, and I could talk about this literally till 11 o'clock at night. I'm guessing y'all don't want to be here past 10:50, so I'll speed it up. One of the things we found was the school district had hired a gentleman who calls himself Doc Brown, and had Doc Brown come in and give a 90-minute speech to the teachers about white fragility and woke culture. And so if you take a look, some of you can't see it. I can't see it. Here we go. Doc Speaks. If you take a look, he's a social justice advocate. And if you look at his Twitter feed, he is a self-proclaimed social justice warrior. So we had every teacher and administrator in the school district for 90 minutes sit there and listen to this gentleman. And here's, let's see, what did he say here? Your brain learns things without your permission. Our job is to interrupt thoughts that don't advance cultural diversity. So this is one of the things they're trying to teach our teachers. And they paid him for his 90-minute speech $15,000.
No. Wow.
But this is even better. What we found out is the person that hired him and the person that brought him in was an assistant superintendent by the name of Janet McDade. And we found this through open records requests. And I don't know how many we do. 450, 500 open records requests. I mean, we were getting information left and right. And we found out that the person that hired him approved it. Even signed the check, was assistant superintendent by the name of Janet McDade. Then we also found through the same request that Janet McDade is part of his paid speakers bureau. And so she gets sent out to go do speeches for a fee to teach the same kind of stuff. Okay. It just so happens that her husband was the basketball coach, and I don't want you to quote me on this exact figure, but her husband was literally the only coach, as far as we can see, that was there more than a year in Carroll history to have a losing record in sports. And this guy was there 8 years and was finishing like last place in district in basketball every year. Well, he is also the person that they named the first culture coach, which meant he got additional funds in his salary to be the culture coach in addition to the basketball coach. He couldn't coach basketball. We didn't think he coached culture either. And so another thing we found, and I'll try to get this right, but there is something called a VOCA grant, which is a Victims of Crime Act. And it is a fund that you go to the state, and it's for victims of violent crimes, sex trafficking. They hired a grant writer to seek money from the VOCA grant from the state to put in all this cultural diversity stuff, claiming that the kids, essentially by doing their microaggressions, were committing crimes. And that's why they had to set up a policing body so they could investigate these microaggression crimes. Well, in all the application, we got text messages from this same assistant superintendent, and this same assistant superintendent was saying to the grant writer, well, let's use this to get more money for me for my salary. And this was a very well-paid administrator. So what's the next one here? Okay, so you heard me talk about Dr. McDade, one of the assistant superintendents. So here's another assistant superintendent. Her name is Julie Thanum. So Julie Thanum, we found through open records requests, went all over the country giving a speech about this. Standing at the PR crossroads when privilege meets social justice. And she had all kinds of interesting slides. You saw a couple of them earlier. But one of the things that she would say, we called this the Julie and Janet Roadshow. So they would go together and tell everybody how horrible parents were in Southlake, and tell everybody that if the community is not on board with this, you just need to do it anyway. And you just sometimes need to just forge ahead and do what you know is right. So that's Julie Thanum, and you'll remember Ms. Thanum and Dr. McDade here in a little bit. So here's some of her slides that she would go talk about in Washington, D.C., and in Austin, and all over the country. Yeah, we already went through those. We're okay on that. So their focus of employee discussions, we brought in trainers to talk to our staff about white identity, culture awareness, implicit bias, microaggressions, white fragility, and culturally competent pedagogy.
What?
Yeah, I don't understand that either. I had to look that up. All right, so we formed the PAC. We had a website. We paid for Facebook ads, and we directed it to the community. And the person that we used to do it was very reasonable in price. We raised money. We held the event. We continued to raise money. So another thing we did was we hired lawyers. And the lawyers that we chose were two gentlemen by the name of Dusty Fillmore and Jonathan Mitchell. Now, some of you know Dusty because he's a Fort Worth lawyer. Y'all may or may not know Jonathan Mitchell, but Dusty Fillmore and Jonathan Mitchell are both are the lawyers that sued the Obama administration on behalf of Hobby Lobby to keep Hobby Lobby from having to pay for abortion drugs for their employees. So with the money we raised, we weren't messing around. We went people that knew what to do and knew how to fight and knew what to do, and we hired them, and they have been phenomenal. They filed a lawsuit, and since we're amongst Republican friends, I will tell you what has happened with that lawsuit. They filed a lawsuit, and it came before Judge Susan McCoy, and Judge Susan McCoy issued a temporary restraining order to stop them based on the violations of the Open Meetings Act, where this was voted on, to stop them from moving further. So right now, it's all stopped. And you can thank Judge McCoy for that. Now, the school district appealed, and that case is now before our Court of Appeals. And we fully expect to win that there, send it back to Judge McCoy. And my guess is she is going to let us take depositions of the board members and find out how many other times they violated Open Meetings Act. So the PAC gathered when we had our event where Alan West came. We had clipboards and committees. So Lee and I picked, we had about 10 committees. And we had a legal committee. We had a candidates and campaigns committee. We had a finance committee. I mean, we set this thing up like a professional organization. And you wouldn't believe how many people volunteered to do this. We had more people volunteering than we knew what to do with. And why? Why were so many people volunteering? Because, not just in Southlake, but I believe this all over the country, people love our country. And yes, we can clap for that. And people know that critical race theory and things like this do support not loving our country. And why on earth any rational human being would want to teach kids from age 4 to 18 to hate their country is beyond me, but this is what this does. So I believe that this is a universal thing that people will say, I will stand up and fight for this, just show me what I need to do. And they'll volunteer, but you got to have 2, 3, 4 leaders. And fortunately, we probably had 15. I mean, we had a great group. The next thing you got to do, and this brings me to this slide. Next thing you got to do is you got to find candidates. So we had essentially a 5-2 minority on the school board, and the May election, one person wasn't going to run again. That was one of those two. So we had to get 2 people on the board just to bring it to a 4-3. And this was my favorite part of the whole thing. My favorite part of the whole thing. We had a candidates and campaigns committee, about 23 people. We sent out an email to our database, which by this point is up to about 3,000 people. And we said, we need qualified, committed, hardworking candidates that are willing to stand up and fight for our school board. It won't be easy. So Lee and I sat down and came up with a list of questions, and these were not your typical candidate forum, no offense, I've been through it, Republican, forum questions. These were hard-nosed, in-your-face, you're gonna tell it like it is, there's no way to sugarcoat it. And we had about 12 or 15 people initially say, I want to do it. As a few said, no, this one's better, it dropped down to about 10 or 11, and then we did interviews. And 2 minutes left? Holy cow.
I know.
Okay, so we did interviews, and we found 2 unbelievable rock stars. And I mean rock stars. One of them was a gentleman by the name of Cam Bryan, who had ran Carroll youth football for like 15 years. So in Southlake Carroll ISD, where football is king, I mean, this guy was excellent. I mean, just a perfect choice. He knew all the parents, he knew all the kids, and he was phenomenal. The second person we hired, get this, we had a lady that had only lived in Southlake for about a year, but she was the person that headed up the confirmation process for Samuel Alito when he got on the Supreme Court in the U.S. Senate. She had clerked for him, and then she also clerked for Clarence Thomas. She was a religious freedom attorney that had been before the Supreme Court multiple times. She was known in that community the world over, and I have never seen a candidate work that hard, that is that intelligent, and be that dedicated to it. Her name is Hannah Smith, and Hannah Smith is sitting right over there with my wife. Hannah, come up here. She took bullet after bullet after bullet, never flinched, kept fighting, stood strong. And I'll tell you the thing that she did, and that we all did, that is so different than what so many Republicans do. When it comes to issues of race, Republicans regularly tiptoe around the issue, sidestep it, won't tell it like it is, won't tell the truth, and we didn't do that. We told it exactly like it was. We said, this nonsense is racist. We don't teach our kids to be racist, but this is gonna lead it there. So I just want to let Hannah just say here a few words here, and please give her a big round of applause. She was phenomenal.
Well, thank you, Tim, so much for that very generous introduction, and it's so wonderful to be with y'all here tonight. Thank you so much for all you do to keep the Republican conservative spirit alive here in Tarrant County. I am so honored to be standing next to Tim. I'm so honored for all that he's done for our city of Southlake, for our school district, and hopefully here in the future for Tarrant County. We are so blessed to have conservative warriors just like you in Southlake who said enough is enough and we're taking our schools back. And now that Cam and I are on the school board, our very first school board meeting, we found something on the agenda that was trying to sneak critical race theory in through the back door, and we stopped it. So these things matter. They matter to our kids. I have 4 dragons, and I'm so excited to be on the school board now, and I'm so excited to endorse Tim O'Hare. So thank you so much for having me here tonight.
So I will finish up real quick here. So candidates. Number one, are they conservative? And it's not enough that they tell you I'm pro-life. You got to look up their voting record. You got to look up their Facebook from 15 years ago and their Twitter. You got to dig in and find out who they are. Pick the most intelligent ones you can find. They have to be community and America minded, and they got to be workhorses. And if they will work hard, they will win, because this is a winning message. This is a winning message even among Democrats. And the most important thing about this is start early. You know, Alan West said at that event, the most important elected position in America is school board, and I believe that now more than ever. And you cannot start to find someone to run for school board on January 18th when January 20th is the first time you can sign up. You have to start 2 years earlier, and at the very least in the summer. And I know there are people in this room that could do it here in Arlington and in Mansfield, and this is a high, high calling. Here's our football guy, school board member. Now I'm going to get to this slide, which you got to see. So these are just some of the ads we did, some of the ads they did. Check this out. I'll skip that. There's our heroes getting arrested for violating the Open Meetings Act. So check out what the Democratic Party did. Now, and they put out racist candidates backed by Southlake Families PAC, and they put all the candidates, school board, mayor, city council. Well, of course, the candidates didn't like seeing that. I loved it, because then we took that and used that, and that riled people up like you wouldn't believe. Democrats are so stupid when it comes to elections. So check out the results. We beat these woke leftists by 40 points. Okay? Now, it then spread like wildfire. They're on Fox News and this, that, and the other every 15 minutes now. And check out some of the tweets about our election, our race. People get inspired when you'll stand up and speak truth.
Yep.
And I would say it's time for every conservative to stand up for our country. We cannot hope someone else is going to take care of it. Step up. Now, I know in this room I'm preaching to the choir, but you've got neighbors, you've got friends that don't, and we need everybody to step up. And remember this about Democrats. Remember this about Democrats. They never stop. They never quit. We kind of take a rest when it's election season's over. We need to change. We never stop. We never quit. If you do that, we have the right ideas, and we'll win seats all over Tarrant County and all over this country. Thank you very much for having me. This was not, I came here because I wanted to talk about what happened in Southlake. I wanted to hopefully inspire others. We're going to do this at Republican clubs all over, but I did not say earlier, and I want to say now, I am running for county judge, and I would love to have your support, and that's March of 22. Thank you.
Okay, hang on, we're not done.
Question. Thank you, everybody.